The Raiders stink. That's what's wrong with them. And they stink on the offensive side of the ball primarily. The offensive line obviously was absolutely awful. And when you got a guy like Colton Miller on your offensive line, who was a first-round pick, Max, out of UCLA, who is 6'8", 309 pounds, and getting bum-rushed and beat down at every turn, I mean, my Lord, what the hell is going on here? Derek Carr has been awful. Now, he wasn't protected at all yesterday. But he got to a point where he looked completely scared. I'm not blaming him, but when you paid $125 million and you're the face of the franchise and a new coach that's a $100 million man comes in and he just praises you, time over time, talking about you're the face, this is your franchise, etc., you expect more from Derek Carr. That's not what you're getting right now. Now, again, they didn't protect him. He was scared to throw the ball downfield. He only made a few attempts past 10 yards, and none of them were accurate. So we get that. We're not letting Derek Carr off the hook by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm going to point to Jon Gruden again. And I'm going to say this because it's very, very important that people understand this. Jon Gruden, and this is what's so, and I haven't heard anybody bring this up. This is what is so unforgivable about Jon Gruden trading Khalil Mack. Jon Gruden, the Jon Gruden that we know and love, Chucky himself, and the man that was doing Monday Night Football and doing such a great job for us. Jon Gruden spent his last 6 years as an NFL coach making the playoffs twice and not winning a single playoff game. Then he goes away from the game for 10 years. So it's been 16, 17 years since we saw Jon Gruden do something of relevancy as a coach in football. You get $100 million. What's one of the biggest reasons he got that money, Max? It was because he kept himself in the mind's eye, in the public eye, as it pertained to football. And what do you rave about him? It's not just his football acumen, it's his passion. When he gets the job offer from Oakland, what did we say? It's Raider Nation. This is Raider Nation that we're talking about here, okay? So if it's Raider Nation that we're talking about, and you're talking about that passion and that fervor and everything that personifies the silver and black, back to the days of Jack Tatum, Max Kellerman, and those boys. How do you let go of the one guy that not only personifies Raider Nation, but is the kind of football that same man, Jon Gruden, spent years right on these airwaves raving about how any coach would want? It wasn't just the ability. It's the mystique that Khalil Mack had that was emblematic of everything the Raiders were supposed to be about. And I think what we're seeing right now is the residue of going away from all of that because it was about Jon Gruden, and it's costing them.
What's going on with the Raiders? Well, first of all, let me start what you brought up.
Sure.
$100 million, $10 million a year for 10 years. $100 million.
And that's just the contract, not the additional incentives that pumps it up to 18
That's
million.
right. The reason for that is he was so excellent on TV for us, and he was making so much money that it was going to take a whole lot of money to get him to leave the booth. Of course it would. And whoever offered him that money, and I believe,
Tampa wanted him to, yeah.
But the difference is, I believe, had a quarterback that he believed in.
That's true.
That's where he would go. Because
exactly
coaches usually look for, where do I see a quarterback I can win with? Okay. What does it take to win in the NFL? If you're designing a team from scratch, a franchise, you go, I want a head coach. I want a quarterback second, right? And the third thing I need is a quarterback killer. That's the three things to start with. There are other things you need too, an offensive line, etc. Let's not forget. The Raiders, if it wasn't the Cowboys with the best offensive line a couple years ago, it was the Raiders. They had a great offensive line. The defense was the problem. But again, and Seattle's defense isn't what it used to be, and Seattle's not a good team. Seattle's a bad team right now. And they waxed them. And it's not like it's just because of the travel for the Raiders. They both had to travel all the way from the West Coast to England. Okay. You have the quarterback, the head coach, you have the quarterback killer. Wrong. You don't have the quarterback killer anymore. And in fact, what it looks like is that's the only thing they actually had. Because the head coach, is he actually a plus compared to other head coaches? Not whether or not Jon Gruden can coach. Does he give you a premium over other coaches in the league? Questionable. Does Derek Carr give you a premium over other quarterbacks? I think that's probably, the answer is likely no. The only thing you had was the quarterback killer, and he's gone. And here's the killer about that now. Think about this. He's going to start to shop Derek Carr. We're already hearing about it. You're reading about it because Carr's not that good. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to get runway. Because, look, I traded Khalil Mack because I'm rebuilding. Oh, we have to see what he does with the draft picks. Traded the quarterback. When he does that, oh, we got to see what he gets. That's going to give him a good 3 years lead time where you go, let's see what he acquires and how this comes together, right? Who says he's going to trade Derek Carr right now? That might not happen for another couple years. So he's going to get 2 or 3 years right now to see what he can do with the draft picks. And even if he doesn't trade Carr, the guaranteed money they gave him, the dead cap hit, that's basically going to be nothing after another 2 or 3 years. Then they're going to say, now we need to go draft our quarterback. Then he's going to get 2 or 3 years to see what he can do with a young quarterback. After all, you can't judge him right away on a new quarterback. Right now, Jon Gruden has 5 to 6 years before he's actually on a hot seat where he could lose that job. 5 or 6 years. All I have to say to Raiders Nation is, Chucky better be right about his vision. If not, you're in for a long haul.
The only thing I would say to you to question all of that is you can never say that definitively, Max, because you never know what buyout clauses are in a contract. And it could potentially get so bad in Oakland, a.k.a. Las Vegas, that you might want out.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
we don't know how long the leash is.
Look, what they're all going to say. Here are the excuses. Look, we're going to have this debate in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Watch this. Well, he got 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack. Let's see what they turn out to be.
But that
takes a year or two to
get the benefit of that doubt.
Your
you feel like he is
your logic is sound. I'm not refuting it. What I'm simply saying is you have to take into account how uncomfortable a situation can become to the point where you may want to get, because the same way he had options as a broadcaster going back into the NFL, he can have as a coach in the NFL coming back in the broadcast.
What I'm saying is you're right.
He don't have to stay there and deal with it, especially if he's that awful. He might wake up and go like this, I don't have it anymore. And he has been on the record saying, you won't have to push me out the door. I'll leave if I realize I can't get it done anymore.
Think about what
he said
saying.
that.